Yeah, that's,
I couldn't believe it. I mean, of all the chances, I know that both people, when they got in a bar fight, I go, I can't be on this case.
you know, am I wrong? Did,
Yes.
I asked him something, but now it's too
Yeah,
late.
because it's really when you think about it. Because he has a, he should wear my coat.
I know, I didn't either, and I had left this in the car, so that's why I threw on.
They know that Monday night we're in
Don't
here.
come up for a long time.
Turn the temperature up. Turn it down.
Down, you hot?
I didn't even wear a coat.
Oh my goodness.
You'll be sick
Next week you'll be sick.
I was going to say that. You'll be sick next
You'll
week.
be in a hospital with pneumonia.
Old wives' tale.
how come your hair and my hair never looks as good as Mike's hair?
Hey, well, just because we're old guys.
I have a beautician that's a magician.
I like that.
What's going on, sir?
Mayor.
Like what?
Online. I've got, oh, I got it.
Got it?
It was doing updates.
Okay.
Oh, that could take a while.
Justin asked Scott to move the chiefs up first rather than put them last.
I don't know.
Up here with a folder. Is this mine? Yep, that's mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yay.
Rather than making him sit here. He was supposed to say something. I didn't know if he did.
Now, what is he?
On the budget.
Oh, on the budget.
Yeah, on the budget stuff.
Oh, we're gonna move that one to the beginning. Okay.
Fire, I guess.
What's that?
The fire part, anyway.
Yeah. If you could.
After committee of the whole or before?
You don't have. Either way. I don't care. Just as soon as we.
Sooner rather than later.
Okay. We'll hit it first.
And
All right, Scott.
I've got public service thing. The program that was going to be was moved because of bump speaker. Maybe this Thursday. You want me to announce it afterwards? Yes.
Yeah, you could
Because it's like the direct.
end of the meeting there.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're good.
First two, first two, the two for the
I'll double check.
district court or something.
Okay.
Okay. That's what I thought.
That's,
I assume that's what that was. Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't see the back of that. All right.
All right. You guys ready?
and the other one actually is the same.
Okay. Okay. Different ones. Okay.
I now call the Norton City Council regular council meeting to order Monday, November 18th, 2019. Time is 7:01. Would you please rise for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silent prayer?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
Mr. Gaynor?
Here.
Mr. McClone?
Here.
Mr. Carrot?
Here.
Mr. Towsley?
Here.
Ms. Whipke?
Here.
Mr. Pelot?
Here.
Mr. Kernan?
He is excused this evening. Communications from the public, we have none. Going into committee of the whole, but If there's no objections from the rest of council, we have Police Chief here. We'd like to go over
Police
the
and
budget
fire.
piece.
Police and fire.
Police and fire? Okay.
Coaches.
Any objections to?
Oh, there he is.
All right, then we'll go ahead and proceed with that, and that is Mr. Messner.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we start the 2020 budget negotiations, we have Chief D'Alessandro here for the police department and Chief Schultz for fire. And I think Chief D'Alessandro sitting at his assigned spot, so we'll let him start. That is on page 8 and 9 of your expense. Any,
I know they've had it for a couple of weeks, but are there any questions to the budget? I mean, it's, I think pretty much is the same. We've raised a couple of things such as fuel, because we've had problems, or we've seen an increase this past year in fuel consumption. I am going to ask for 2 replacement vehicles for 2019, or I'm sorry, for 2020, which is consistent with what we've done the last couple of years. We're replacing 2 aging cruisers with 2 new ones.
and the cruisers will come out of police equipment, which is in your enterprise fund, page 48.
Yeah, having those on a continuous rotation is very, very good for everybody involved. Any other equipment that you're looking at, purchasing, radios, anything, any upgrades that we should be looking at?
No, so when we replace the vehicles, I've been purchasing new MDTs for that vehicle, which is a pretty substantial cost. That comes out of the equipment fund.
And over the weekend, there was a big write-up about Barberton and their situation with the overtime, and I see that ours is creeping up there. What do you attribute that to?
You know, vacation, comp time. We have hired part-time officers. Our part-time officers all have other jobs, so sometimes they're not readily available as needed. So that's what's happening. You know, you can't control the overtime. You've got a couple of serious calls. Our detectives sometimes work over. You know, it happens. But I don't think, I'm not seeing anything that's really exorbitant with the overtime. My first priority is always to backfill the full-time bargaining units with part-time as I can and maintain minimum staffing.
Like I said, I just saw it kind of creeping up there. I mean, from 17, we went from 40,000, 18 to 62. This year, we're looking at 80-something. So,
I will tell you, as the department gets some longevity, they're acquiring more and more time off, is what's happening.
Scott?
okay. Yes, sir.
We ran an officer short for 3/4 of the year.
We did. We had.
So, I
I'm
mean,
sorry, yeah.
we
Okay.
made up for that. Secondly, we had projects that we needed police officer presence, so those were paid for out of their line item while it was incurred through the project. It'll be reimbursed through that. But all those factors added into, so, I mean, while you see that bottom line is 20,000 higher than it was, we saved more than $20,000 in benefits over the time that person wasn't full-time.
Okay.
Okay. One other thing, too, that I would point out, we've done something different this year. We've moved the dispatch operation line, the very last line. We've moved that into a new department, which is actually on page 10, called Swisscom. That's our dispatch operation.
Okay.
So we've basically moved that budget over there, so you're aware. And the police equipment on page 48 was 70,000, so I think that is more than capable of handling the 2 vehicles the chief would like for 2020 to keep his fleet in a younger mode. I think that Chief would agree. One thing that we've seen is in the past when we haven't turned vehicles over quick enough, we start getting 100 to 120,000. We start putting a ton of expense. Front ends go out, different things go out. Now that we're able to turn them, we get better returns from Fred Martin, better trade-in value, and we're putting less expense in that. So it works better if we can keep our fleet turning over, and I think the chief has pretty much decided that at least 2 vehicles a year to keep that going. I think we're catching up pretty well, are we not, Chief?
We are.
Pretty fresh fleet.
We are. Did you guys get the current list of vehicles with the mileage on them?
No, but I'd like to get one.
Okay. I'll make sure that you get one.
Yeah.
And Ron, I should have, I'm sorry. I should have called you, Ron. Are you seeing a health insurance increase that's 25%?
I don't think we have, Robert, have we? It's holding at 9. I think we're still good at 9.9 this year.
We're at 0 for this year. They increased at 9.9 last year, and then it stays the same for this year.
For the 2 years. So 0% increase.
Okay, because I'm seeing 309 this year, 309,000, and we're projecting 403 or budgeting 403 for next year.
Well, it's due to changes. I mean, we've added one of the officers back. It all depends. Some of them have changed their plans, family plans. You know, some of them were single, now families. So when those go up,
Yeah.
I mean, the family plan is pretty close to $3,000 a month in expense, so it gets pretty healthy.
What is it for the single?
Single's like $900, $960.
it's really a big jump then.
So it's a big
Okay.
jump.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't looking at a large health insurance increase across the board.
And one nice thing about the analytics program, each one declares, and the analytics actually, for each officer, each employee actually, I know exactly what their plans are, and analytics budgets that actual amount right into their line. So we could actually look over to the far left of the analytics line and know what each employee actually costs with benefits in that, so.
Anyone have?
Yeah,
Mis-
I've got 2 questions, if I may.
Mr. Towsley?
We were just talking about a younger fleet and looking at vehicle maintenance. And in 2017, we spent almost $24,000 in maintenance. 2018, $17,000. And this year, so far, under $15,000, which is going down, which is good. But the budget went up a little, and I'm just a little curious as to why. The budget was 28 last year, and we're not spending but half of that this year, and now we're going to raise it to 30 next year.
But sometimes that's a gamble. You know, if you've got a front end that goes out on a couple of cars, and we've had that happen. We've also had to replace cams in some of the engines. It happens. So it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like fuel. You don't know where to budget.
And I think too, Chief, that we found that having to go to Rick's only because Chris Stilovich hasn't been able to do as much as our work in-house in that, so we've seen some increase in cost there as well.
Right.
By having to go out, where we were trying to do that in-house, and he's so tied up with service department work that he really can't do an awful lot for the.
Well, your actual numbers are showing it going down, not going up, which is good.
Well,
And if the chief thinks it's necessary, that's fine. I just felt necessary to question
yeah, I
it a
mean,
little bit.
it's only gone up $2,000, which is, I think, minimal.
And then my other question is, on the second page, the top line, it's DARE supplies, and we're not told what else is with the DARE supplies. we were budgeted $2,000 last year, didn't spend anything, and then we're budgeted 2,000 again this year. Wondering if there's,
I think we just spent that money. So the DARE curriculum is taught right after the first of the year to the 5th and 6th graders. So we buy the supplies, we buy the workbooks, things of that nature. And I think the shipment just came in, so I know we.
so it was spent.
It was
We
spent,
just, we just don't have up to date.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
On the Syscom, I noticed there's 84,000 IT services, and I don't know what it was in 2019. There's some kind of upgrade next year or something, or?
No, if you look over on page 11,
Okay,
about the middle of the page where it says IT systems,
okay,
you see that the budget last year was 145.
Oh, yeah, it was,
and
okay.
It dropped to 75.
Okay.
Actually, what we've done is the 84 actually pays for Nick Sattler and Mark Lang, our two IT guys
Okay.
that work between the three entities.
Okay.
And that, so I've split out their time into Swisscom, and the 75,000 is basically for hardware, software, updates, whatever we need.
Okay.
Under general government.
gotcha, okay.
Good questions. Anything else for Chief?
On the cars, it shows that our actual was $6,000 this year, $6,063. I could have sworn that we bought 2 cars this year.
We did, but we purchased the vehicles out of the 140 fund.
So it's not coming out of this one. All right.
So what comes out of,
That's basically your light bars, changing and radio, stuff like that.
I think so, yes.
That's actually the equipment, the lights and the equipment, changing the radios over from the old to the new. It's that particular line.
All right. And now if we moved dispatch operations out of this, that was budgeted last year, or this year, actual is 241, we budgeted 305. We're still looking at over a $300,000 increase. Then if you throw that 300, that's a $600,000 increase from the full year actual.
Well, you can see in 2018, it ended up at 302. We budgeted 305, we're at 241. We still have a quarter to pay. So it usually comes right in. It should come in real close to the 305 in that. And unless now,
5.
I'm sorry?
305. I'm talking about the total police department.
Oh. So what you're saying is the 305 doesn't actually fall, isn't reducing, the 2019 should reduce by 305?
Well, I'm just wondering if you figured if we had left the 305 in there, then we would be looking at a 2.965
You'd be at
for a 2020.
You'd be about 3.1. It'd be the 2.8, well, the 2.6 plus another 3, so you'd be up around 3 million something.
Right.
Yeah,
2.6 plus 3 is 2.965.
yeah.
So,
So there's been some adjustments up and down over last year. I mean, fuel, different things up and down. But overall, I think we have a budget decrease, which I'm pleased with. I think the chief is pleased with. I mean, the department heads pretty much put their budgets together.
right.
And administration kind of tweaks in that, but I think we were satisfied with what he did.
Well, now I'm a little confused. Could you explain how there's a decrease when the math you just did showed an increase? You said overall there's a decrease, but you guys just got done talking about how there's actually an increase.
No, last 2019 budget was 2.8. Maybe I'm missing the point here. This
Well, you
year
took
it's
a
only
line out, I
2.6.
think is what Mr.
So-
Pilot's saying.
What
Yeah, I'm
Mr.
saying
Pilot's
that you
saying
took a
is,
line out.
If you look at the difference between 2019 budget and 2020 budget, it's 200 and $19,000.
Yeah.
We took 305 out from dispatch operations, so it's gone up around $90,000
And
total. And I think that's what they're pointing. And you can look at the, I mean, if you look at the line items as you go up and down, I mean, you can see where $90,000 comes from. Some personnel cost increases, and there's some other incidental items that have a higher increased budget from 19 to 20. But those are, I mean, they're really, for a $2.8 million budget, they're $90,000 is a pretty small margin of error.
I mean, it just looking at the police salaries alone went from $1 million up to $1,089,000. So there's almost 90,000 right
Right.
there.
And like you guys said, you guys ran without that officer for better half of
Right.
a year there, so, okay. All right, I'm good.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
All right.
All right.
Chief Schultz, you're up.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Chief.
Chief.
Thank you.
Fire Department is part of the enterprise fund. It starts on page 28, which is the fire EMS, the 2012 levy side. Actually, we need to change that. It's more like 2016, I believe,
Yes.
in that, so need to update that. And then on page 30 is the fire EMS non-capital. And on page 32 is the capital piece. Now, working with chief and with administration, we've made a concerted effort this year to reduce the fire department budget. I think you can see that not only in the personnel lines, you can see it in the other, in that last year's budget for 105 was 993, 529 this year, 886, 978. Of course, you might recall some of our discussions in the past, we were pretty cash rich in Fund 106 and pretty cash poor in 105. So we changed our 65-35 split from 105, changed it over to 60-40 with the 60% switching over to 106 so that we could use up some of the excess cash. I think we've kind of righted the ship. Now I think we're running cash is pretty level on both sides, so I think we've done a good job there. But I'm going to stop and let you ask questions of Chief Schultz.
Any questions for Chief Schultz? Chief, are you looking at any equipment, just like I asked?
No, nothing for 2020. 3 sets of turnout gear. I believe that's it.
No mass tanks, things like that?
Nope. We built our 20-year plan, and we are dead on. We were supposed to replace my vehicle this year. It's actually sitting at the dealership. We should be able to pick it up tomorrow. 2021, the next ambulance will need to be sent out and re-chassied. But no, we're pretty much dead on as far as equipment replacement and
The re-chassing of vehicles, just an absolute awesome idea. I mean, such a money saver.
It saved us a tremendous amount of money. So now in 21, there's been some industry standard changes. It's probably going to be a bit more than the last one because now they require a harness to hold you in the back and a few other things, but it won't be nearly as expensive as purchasing a new truck.
Probably a little too early to tell, but with the widening of 76, are you seeing more calls for that area?
Since the construction's over, no, we're actually seeing less. Yeah, we still go out there, but not not like we were during construction at all.
What about opioid calls?
They are almost non-existent. It's hitting areas around us. So far, we've been lucky. I don't have the exact number of overdoses so far this year, but I could probably count them on one hand.
Wow.
So we've gotten a little bit of a reprieve from that.
Anyone else have questions?
I've got one.
Yes.
Chief, I'm noticing 2019 so far, your part-time, I've lost my spot here. Part-time EMS is down significantly, which is always, from our point of view, is good that it's down. What do you attribute that to? And I see your request for next year's far less. We have less guys working, or?
Yes, we have less guys working.
Is that because less call volume, or I mean, why is that?
We're just trying to keep our staffing at a happy medium. We don't want to hire too many.
Well, that's great. I commend you for getting that number down.
Thank you.
Just so council's aware, on the capital, on vehicles, there's basically 2 vehicles out on lease right now. As Chief alluded to, we have a 2016 squad that will be making the last payment on May 1st of 2020. And then that will be the one that will go to replace in 2021. So Chief has probably done, of anybody around in the city, he's probably done the best job on the 20-year plan, keeping things. And as you well know, if you've got to replace a fire truck, remember the last one, it cost us about, it was only $18,000, but the overcost was like $400,000. If he hadn't got a grant from FEMA, we had been paying through the nose for that thing, but he's done a good job. And you're right, Mr. President, the reboxing has saved us a ton of money.
And technically, we should be replacing an engine next year. But when we purchased our rescue truck back in 2008, it's a rescue pumper, so it can do both jobs. So we're going to save about $600,000 next year by not having to replace the old truck.
Good.
Nice.
Good.
Yeah, I echo Mr. Towsley's sentiments there. Great job on getting this figure reduced. Any other questions for Chief Schultz? Anything you would like to add?
No,
All right, then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. Thanks.
All right. And Ron, anything to add there before we go back into?
As I indicated last week, you can look at your table of contents in the general fund, your plus minuses. There's only a few, and I think as you go down, unless you have specific questions, they're pretty noticeable, on those plus minuses when you go down the page and compare 2019 to 2020 budget. You can readily see where the increases are. And if council has any specific questions as to why or wherefore, just call me, email me, come and see me. Several of you have done that already, but if there's no other questions, that's all I have on budget tonight.
Oh. All right. Anybody have any questions regarding the budget? All right, then we will move back to the beginning of the agenda here. Committee of the Whole, Council initiated rezone. Mr. Towsley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to turn this right over to the administrator so he can explain it.
So we had a request from several of the property owners adjacent, and you should have a map. I outlined it by parcel, so would be clear. And the one parcel I see that's not included, I'll make sure.
Mr.
that-
Fowler, adjacent to which property, just so they
Oh,
understand.
so our industrial land, and I apologize, it should be in color, but, so the property we purchased out on Eastern and Fairland, we were approached by property owner number 4608002, 4608001, 4607423. They are actually the same owner, owns all three parcels. They had asked that we rezone to I-1. While we were reviewing their request, we felt that including 4604439, 4603582, 4603581, and 4604438, which may be hard to read, it's in the margin there. Those four parcels are PPG property, but when you look at zoning itself, if we're going to, at the request of those three property owners, we felt it would be prudent to do the PPG parcels as well. Secondly, the parcels on Eastern Road, there's three parcels there. One is a Barberton wastewater treatment facility, that it's a pump station, that little small portion. And then the church parcel, which is kind of a triangular shaped, which is 4608436, had asked to be part of our I-1. And that left one parcel, essentially the 4602627, to not be I-1. So the reason we've brought forth this recommendation is four of the parcel owners have requested the I-1, and we felt it was prudent if we're going to do that. Actually, subsequently, the next parcel was also requested by the property owner. So essentially, we'd have just a few small parcels that are not I-1. So we felt if we're going to do at the property owner's request, that we would do the others just to make it zoned the same.
Okay, and to be clear on this, this just starts the process, what we're voting for
So
tonight.
all this does is it says, Planning Commission, we want you to review it. Planning Commission reviews it. It comes back to City Council. We have our public hearing. Nothing can happen until the public hearing, and then subsequent a vote by the council, which will have to have 3 reads, et cetera.
Yeah, I was just going to say that has to go to full reading.
Correct.
And that can't have emergency either.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Fowler, what is that right there at the corner of Eastern and Fairland? The three little boxes.
Those are the residential properties. There are 3 residential properties.
And that main whole piece there is not being rezoned.
It's already zoned I-1.
Okay. That's ours. Yeah, and then I was looking at that.
So that will leave those 3 little properties the
That's
only
the
ones.
gas
Correct.
station.
Yes.
Okay, does anybody else have any comments or questions? And I will make a motion to move ordinance 124, 2019 to tonight's agenda and requesting to waive second and third readings to get this into motion.
And that would have emergency language also, yes.
To send it to planning.
I would assume it's,
Yes, to send it
Yeah.
to planning, correct?
A second.
We have a motion and second to move ordinance 124 to tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Towesley,
yes.
Ms. Whipke,
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor,
Yes.
Mr. McClone,
Yes.
Mr. Carrot,
Yes.
Mr. Pelot.
Yes. Ordinance 125, Mr. Towesley. And
Thank you, Mr. President, and I guess I'll turn this over to the administrative officer as well.
So this is the last remaining parcel from the R3 RPC. That property owner did request that this property be rezoned to I-1. This is initiated at the request of the property owner. And just for the record, there'll be no emergency language because it's a zoning, so it'll take time to take effect. We can still waive the rules, but it will take time to take effect, and it'll go to the Planning Commission in December.
Oh, okay. So they'll have the full 30 days before they take.
Correct.
Just a curiosity question for me. The first piece we talked about had several pieces, and this one's just one. Why?
So if you look at it's all R1. So we were transferring R1 to I1. This is R3 RPC.
Okay.
So I had to separate them because they're two different zoning class. I felt it'd be cleaner
Right.
to separate them so people wouldn't think we're trying to jam a bunch of different zone parcels in. I felt to be above board, we put different zoning and move it forward that way.
Great, I appreciate that.
Good idea.
Anybody have any questions or comments on this one? Then I will make a motion to move ordinance number 125, 2019 to tonight's agenda, requesting to waive second and third readings.
Second.
Motion second to add ordinance 125 to tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carrot?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Next item is C, purchase reversible snowplow. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This would be for ordinance number 126, 2019, that we're going to be looking to move to tonight's agenda for its first reading. There have been so many of them, and this is for a cost not to exceed $10,093, which we'll be obtaining from Henderson. This isn't a part of the one that's coming in later. Okay, that's what I thought. This is just a reversible snowplow. As to which one are?
This will be a spare. We wanted to have a spare in case something happened for the snowplow season. And normally I'm not one to be anxious, but I would ask that if we could waive at the next council meeting, if we could waive one of the readings so we could get it ordered. I'd just like to have it on hand for the snowplow season.
Do they have them in stock, or?
They do have them in stock. So once we get approval from council, we will move forward with the purchase, but I will not do anything until council's approved it.
And this spare would be for which?
For the 5-ton, the big trucks, big snowplow trucks.
This is going to be paid out of the 2019 budget this year. It'll come out of this year's budget.
Okay. At this time, I motion to add ordinance 126, 2019 to tonight's agenda for its first reading, looking to waive the third reading next meeting. And this will have emergency language to it.
A second.
Was that a second there?
I'll second that.
I thought Jack. I think Jack said second. I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carrot?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Item D, purchase hot box. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is actually for a hot box to keep our asphalt warm so that we can do a better job at maintaining our roads, and it'll keep it hot even when it's not in use, so we're actually going to save money and be able to do it in weather that normally we would not be able to use it for, and we're looking to purchase, I didn't write that one down, anyway, for the cost not to exceed $29,195. Do we need to think about moving this one along?
This is part of the 2020 budget, so we're not in a hurry. It can go 3 reads. I just wanted to get it introduced and have that discussion as we progress. We have one on loan currently. We're demonstrating one to make sure but we know it's what we want, but we're borrowing one so we can do some patching in the interim.
Were they using that on 21 today?
They were. Yeah, it's a pull-behind trailer with some heating. It heats the asphalt, keeps it warm.
So, Robert, we used to just put it on the bed. How long would it last when you have the
So, depending on weather, right, and that's the issue in the winter. If we got a half a day out of it, we would be good. The problem is once asphalt reached a certain temperature, it would not be good any longer, and sometimes we'd be throwing out part of our truckload. So while our people were trying to do what they could, we didn't have the proper I mean, they were doing what they could, but they didn't have the proper equipment. This will definitely save us money and provide us a better product.
Okay.
Is this just a seasonal use, or is this?
I mean,
in the
if
form of
in the summertime, we could use it if we had to. I mean, I mean, the primary issue is wintertime, but, or even spring and fall when it's not really 50 or 60. But I mean, I've seen departments that use it all year round, and it is possible. I just don't know what Larry's intention would be.
So does that mean we'll be using less cold patching?
Yes, we'll be going. That's the thing. You can get hot patch and keep it overnight. Even that's one thing I think Miss Whipke indicated. If we don't use it all, the whole 4 ton, we can leave it in the cooker, keep it warm, so we come in the morning, it's ready to go.
We're not paying overtime.
And we're not paying overtime to patch holes because we have extra patch.
Okay.
I would think that the hotter it is, the better it's going to adhere to the pothole itself. Is that a true thought?
I mean, it just doesn't form properly when it's not a certain temperature. Asphalt has to be a specific temperature depending on the type of asphalt. You know, at certain temperatures, only certain asphalt can be leveled. You know, I know one of the questions Mr. Towsley had brought up was, not alluding to it, Johnson Road. Johnson Road the base that we put in, that 9 inches, had to be a certain temperature. And if you notice, they didn't work under certain temperatures. It's the same with pothole patch. It has to be a certain temperature when it goes in, and this will keep it at that temperature in order to make it a better product and last longer.
Any other questions, comments?
Oh, no, I don't have any. Sorry. At this time, I motion to add ordinance 127 to tonight's agenda for its first reading.
Second.
I have a motion and second to add ordinance 127 to tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carrot?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Item E, Johnson Road water line. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is where we're looking at ordinance number 128, 2019, to move to council's next meeting, which would be November 25th agenda for a first reading. But to make it brief, this is for a contract with Engineering Associates for the 2020 water design for Johnson Road in amount not to exceed $62,000. We're wanting to get this done so that we can submit for a 2020 OPWC application, and the construction would actually not start until 2021. And this is to extend the water line down to what many of us know as the old fire station in Sherman, and today we're thinking of it as a Parks building. Where is this actually picking up? Around Roop?
Just east of Roop, there's a, I'll tell you what street it is. Bear with me. There's a little street. Parkwood. Just
Oh,
just
okay,
east of
on the-
Parkwood.
On the south side.
Yep. There's a fire plug right there, just east of Parkwood, and then it'll go down to Johnson Road to Belton.
And just to let everybody feel a little better, the residents, not mandatory you tie into this. This would be, if you wanted to, you could, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we going to be putting in anything there for that to make it easier, or is this just going to be a straight line? Come to think of it, you know, like the sewers that will put the laterals in, or is
Oh
this-
no, we always put laterals in.
Okay.
We always put laterals in to the right to the property line, and again, that's so if ultimately someone has an issue with their well and decides they want to connect and not replace their well, they have that opportunity. So that will include laterals to each property.
That will also extend fire protection to that area as well then.
Right. So it should help in lowering property insurance.
That's going to be a 12-inch line and an 8-inch line.
Said 8-inch, I think.
5,400.
Oh, 12 and 8 inch.
Yeah.
Be a mixture, but yeah.
Where would the 12-inch be? Where we
The
start?
main line will be 12 inches down Johnson. There'll be some 8s off of, I think there's one little loop in there down Parkwood. And there's some lines in there that they want to loop in.
And it's really got nothing to do with this, but it's kind of a general water question. Say somebody wanted to tie into the water, they could still maintain their well, though, could they not, for use on gardens and such?
They would, I mean, that's a Barberton. They would have to have a separator. We would need to make sure that there was a distinct separation and there'd be backflow preventer so as that someone couldn't pump their well water into the system.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it can be done. They would just have to require a backflow preventer.
Okay, thank you.
I know the last time I looked at it, you basically had to cut the line so there was no chance of your well water getting into the city water.
Right.
But you could still use your well for watering outside and so forth.
Washing
your
cars,
cars and so
watering
That
forth.
way you
yard.
don't have that extra going on your water bill.
Correct.
Anybody else? Okay, at this time, I motion to add ordinance 128, 2019 to council's November 25th agenda for its first reading.
Second.
I have a motion second to add ordinance 128 to November 25th's agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Item F, Reimer Road and Carl Street Waterline. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is out in the Loyal Oak area. And again, it's we're extending the water line there to include Carl Street up to Reimer Road. And this will complete a water line loop, and it'll also offer opportunity for the Loyal Oak Leaf Park to have water access, which it currently does not. This is just for designing, paid to Engineering Associates, not to exceed $26,000.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions on this?
Just briefly, Robert, that would be ran from where to where?
So at the terminus on Cleveland Maslin, around the corner to Reimer, and then down Carl to Wadsworth. and
Okay,
connecting
that's
to
what I was
Wadsworth.
getting at. Okay, thank you.
Was this petition driven?
No, no. We've had a lot of people ask for it, but it will be, again, optional. It's non-invasive. But again, we'll be applying for OPWC funds to try to, and possibly another grant fund that we've been exploring.
Where that passes Carl, I assume there would be I don't want to say lateral, but a provision for a fairly large line to go towards the park. I don't mean
T.
the line itself, maybe, but
So going north on Cleveland Maslin, there'll be a T, and it'll be equal to, my guess, I'm making an assumption, I'm not the guy who'll be designing it, but it'll be the same size as the line that's currently there. And then there'll be there's a water study that someone convened in 1997 that we've been using, and we'll take that and we'll use that to determine the size line to go down Reimer. Now it'll stop at Carl. We'll put a T in. Now there'll be a stub in to go continue west, and then it'll go down to Wadsworth Road and connect into the 16-inch that's down there.
yeah, that's what I was asking, if there would be a T at the
There'll be a-
road. I forget the name of the street there.
There'll be T's at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
With that being the park and knowing what our long-term goals probably are of running water there, is that something we want to add into the study?
No, we'll just run a service line from the they'll put a curb stop in at the right of way, and then we'll run a service line where we need it to get our water where we need to. It's a lot cheaper for us to run it separately outside the contract because you're talking about a 2-inch or 1-inch depending on what size service we need.
Okay.
Nobody else has any questions? I motion to add ordinance 129, 2019 to council's November 25th agenda for its first reading.
Second.
Motion and second to add ordinance 129, 2019 to November 25th's agenda. Any further discussion?
Well, before we move on, I'd just like to say congratulations, Mr. Gaynor. He was looking to get water down there for a while.
Told you, just patience, grasshopper. Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Item G, 2020 Henderson snowplow. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We're looking to move ordinance number 130, 2019 to council's next meeting, which would be November 25th. This is actually going to attach to the next ordinance as well, for a snow plow and spreader in an amount not to exceed $13,200.
If you remember correctly, we had pulled an item several months ago from ARM, and we found that this package that we're putting forth, the next two items, were cheaper than us buying the package from ARM. So that's what you have currently in front of you, these two items. One snowplow and spreader, which if you notice, the snowplow that we're buying is the same one that you approved prior for the extra snowplow. It's not exactly spelled out the same way, but it's the same one. And then the spreader will be a salt sand spreader, which that's the title. It's for a salt spreader, but it's the same. It's all the same material that we use currently.
Are we getting multiple quotes on these things?
Yes, you have, I think, three. There should have been, I thought I included 3 quotes for each for the purchases. I may not have. I thought we did in the packets.
Yeah, I was going to get around to explaining that. I think that's close to almost $20,000, isn't it, that we're saving between those two?
I didn't add it up, but I know it's cheaper the way we're doing it, and that's why we pulled the other one, because we found this to be cheaper.
And this would have been ordinance 104, 2019 that we pulled back in September for anybody that's wondering. So I motion to add ordinance 130, 2019 to council's November 25th agenda for its first reading.
Second.
Motion second to move ordinance 130, 2019 to November 25th's agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Thank you.
Unless I'm missing them, Robert, I'm not seeing the multiple quotes.
I have them. We'll get them to you.
All right. Next item on tonight's agenda, H, dump body and equipment. Ms. Whitby.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. We're looking at ordinance number 131, 2019, also to move to council's next meeting for November 25th. This is actually for the dump body and equipment to go with the snow plow from item G, and also to go with the chassis that we've already passed that, probably back September, October. And again, thanks to Mr. Fowler, we put this back so that we can get it that much cheaper. And this is not to exceed $46,935. And it is going to be 2020 purchase. And these are all budgeted for, by the way. Anybody? I motion to add ordinance 131, 2019 to council's November 25th agenda for its first reading.
I'll second.
Motion second to add ordinance 131, 2019 to November 25th's agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Next item, amend appropriations. Ms. Whipke.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is looking to move ordinance 132, 2019 to tonight's agenda, and we need to waive the second and third readings. This is actually for salt deliveries. Somewhere along the line, our salt deliveries came in late, so we ended up using 2019 funds for paying for 2018. And then we ended up then we had to buy more salt. And so we've got like 3 deliveries that we need to pay for to make sure that we can get through December of 2019. And then we'll go into 2020 after that. So we need to increase our budgeted money for the 2019 for the stockpile salt that we currently have to the tune of increasing the appropriation up $185,000. And we need to have this paid by November 28th, which is why we're asking to waive the second and third readings and pass this as an emergency.
Good job.
And Ron, what is the price per ton?
This year, it's $80 and somewhat cents, like $80.57, I think, off the top of my head.
Remember what it was last year?
Oh, it was a lot more than that, because we were, can you remember, Robert, it was like 100?
I
It
thought
was a
was
109.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was 100 and some because.
$20, $30 more per ton.
Anybody questions? I motion to add ordinance 132, 2019 to tonight's agenda for its first reading, looking to waive second and third readings with emergency language.
Second.
Motion second to add ordinance, was it 131?
32.
132 to tonight's agenda, waiving second and third. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towsley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Consideration of minutes.
Excuse me, Scott, just a minute before you go. Robert, what's the story on the progress of the street sweeper?
January 2020, it'll be delivered. We've already ordered it.
Okay, thank you.
Consideration of minutes, we're going to defer those to council's next meeting. Reports from officers, boards, and commissions, starting with the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll wait till the end of the meeting for public service, so thank you.
Mr. Fowler?
Okay, I've been instructed to be short and brief, but that's not possible. All right, just to let you know, the Eastern Road water line, there's about 600 more feet, and they'll be at the water tower. Hopefully to have water in the line here in the next week. New Park Drive, you may notice the apron was poured. We've been communicating with local business about accessibility. Hopefully they'll have a portion of that open tomorrow. We'll have a change order coming forward because we wanted a quick dry cement, but that's moving forward quite well. You may have noticed that over the weekend that Clark Mill Road was closed. It was not supposed to be closed. Apparently the gas company had been doing some work out there and left the signage out there. It should be open every night. We'll make sure that happens. I apologize for any inconvenience. You may have noticed Johnson Road is well underway. Today we added another 675 feet to the project due to how the project's progressing. I may, at the end of the project, come with a change order, a minor change order that we would need to approve before the end of the year. But what's going to happen now is they're going to do a couple more sections, 675 more feet, that they'll do full depth reclamation. And just so you all know, they are taking out 9 inches and putting in 9 inches of lift, and we're going to top that with 1.5 inches. So you're going to have about 10.5 inches of asphalt. So if that road falls apart after this, I don't know what to tell you. It's 10.5 inches of asphalt. It has good base. There's been no base repair. So it's hard to believe that this doesn't hold up. But what I'm telling you is we're going to put an 1.5 inch top coat from Johnson Road at Hametown all the way to where we end the project. So it'll be about 3/4 of the way. If you're curious how far that is, there's some paint on the road. But if it costs us $20,000 to finish it, I'd like to do it right and finish it so it all matches. So I may be bringing a change order. Just wanted to make you all aware of that.
You're talking about basically from the fire station to the intersection is what would be added, am I understanding?
In west. Because
And some west as well.
we went further west to, there's a little culvert, like a bridge almost, if you know where the bridge is, there's a waterway. We're going to that waterway. So we're going to go from the intersection of the waterway. It's about 3/4 of the way down the
So
road.
that'll have probably 90% of the problems.
Yes. Actually, it should be all the problems should be resolved. That was our goal.
On the
So-
other side of the farm.
Yep, on the other side of the farm, just past the farm, if you know where that is.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Now, do they believe that the problem was the base and not any type of drainage?
There were no problems with the base. There have done, one of the reasons we have so much money is there was absolutely no base repair needed. The issue is a poor product.
Okay. Drainage is good there.
We did drainage, we did put some drainage in, but the poor product is the primary
The
driver
primary
of what's
reason.
going on.
Okay.
All right, so I have some good news finally. You know, I wanted to bring it up when you approved the contracts for engineering associates. Because of you, I can say this. Because council had the forethought to engineer these projects in advance, we received the second highest allotment of OPWC funds in the county, next to Akron. Every one of our projects got some grant funding. So
Okay.
when you ask why we engineer projects beforehand, the idea is to get grant money, and we did get some grant money. The total allotment from OPWC is about $1.1 million. Now, not all of it's grant money, but we got $400,000 for Johnson Road, Barber Road. Now, there'll be a 2021 project just due to the amount of money it's going to cost. But just knowing that we got $400,000 for Barber Road, $100,000 for a water line, and $75,000 in grant money for our stormwater for Worcester Road. So we'll be able to do the stormwater project before we do the paving to make sure that we do that job
And
correctly.
that'll be done in the spring?
That'll be
or
done
s-
next
or-
year.
yeah.
Yeah, next year. So I just wanted to let you know that, you know, now while we celebrate administratively for getting those funds, it's because you all help us get there. And we also did get AMAT's funding for Norton Avenue. So, I mean, there are a lot of good things happening, and it's because council gives us a little bit of forethought to move things along that we do get these grant funds.
As Amazon continues their build there, I would guess that it's going to increase truck traffic on 261 tremendously. Do we think that's going to impact, or what kind of impact do we feel that that's going to have on our roadways there?
I mean, I've asked Josh because that's an ODOT road, they kind of schedule those projects. I've asked Josh to inquire that for that reason. One, if you notice, we do crack seal it. We're trying to save as much as we can, do preventative maintenance. But that road, I believe he said, was a couple years out from being repaved. I'll follow up and get back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Messner.
Council, you saw that I updated your complete budget books. In that, they were in your mailboxes. This afternoon late, I received probably 6, 7, 8 additional updates from administration. So expect me to bring 6, 7, 8 different revenue and expense pages to put in your books for next week. And maybe with a show of hands, you want me to email those out to you ahead of time so you can look at them?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay, so I'll just email a copy of those to each of you, and at least you'll be aware, and I'll put hard copies in your mailbox.
And will you give me an electronic copy with everything in it?
Yes, I can do that.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Anything else there, Mr. Messner?
No, thank you.
Mr. Markey?
Nothing this time, thank you.
Before you move on, since it's announcements, if everyone should I want to remind everyone, please, to attend the November 26th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Community Center concerning the Wolf Creek watershed discussion. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Introduction of new legislation, ordinance 124, 2019, for its first reading. Mr. Towsley?
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer ordinance number 124, 2019 for its first reading and ask the clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance to initiate the rezoning of property described as permanent parcel numbers 4608000, 4608001, 4608002, 4604438, 4604439, 4603581, 4602627, 4608436, 4608662, and 4603582 in the city from an R1 district to an I1 district.
Thank you, and this is just the Eastern Road, Fairland Road industrial area that we spoke about earlier. I'd like to make a motion to waive the second and third readings.
I'll second. Okay.
We have a motion and second. Will the clerk call the roll, please?
I'm sorry, Mr. Towesley,
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor,
Yes.
Mr. McClone,
Yes.
Mr. Carratt,
Yes.
Ms. Whipke,
Yes.
Mr. Pelot.
Yes.
At this time, I also want to make it clear that this has got to, I know we already spoke it, but I want to reiterate that this has got to go through a whole process. So this is just getting the process started. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 124, 2019.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt ordinance 124, 2019. Any further discussion? As Mr. Towesley said, this just goes off the planning, so it's just the beginning of the process. So roll call, please.
Mr. Towesley,
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor,
Yes.
Mr. McClone,
Yes.
Mr. Carratt,
Yes.
Mr. Pelot,
Yes.
Ms. Whipke.
Yes. Did I-
Yes.
I'm sorry. I thought.
I didn't hear wait,
Yes, that's
over the cough there, so yes. Anyways, ordinance 125, 2019 for its first reading. Mr. Towesley?
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer ordinance number 125, 2019 for its first reading and ask the clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance to initiate the rezoning of property described as permanent parcel number 4602907 in the city from a R3 RPC district to an I1 district.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to waive the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion second to waive the second and third readings on ordinance 125, 2019. Any further discussion? Can someone explain what the difference between the R3 RPC district versus I1 district, some of the changes or differences?
I mean, it just goes from essentially residential, mass residential area to industrial one, light industrial.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 125, 2019.
Second.
Motion second to adopt ordinance 125, 2019. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Next item, ordinance 126, 2019. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I introduce ordinance 126, 2019 for its first reading and ask clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance authorizing the purchase of a reversible snowplow RSP 10X42 trip edge plow for the service department at a cost not to exceed $10,000, $10,093.
First reading only.
Ordinance 127, 2019. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I introduce ordinance 127, 2019 for its first reading and ask clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance authorizing the purchase of a KM 8000 TED hotbox trailer for the service department at a cost not to exceed $29,195.
First reading only.
And you wanted to waive the third on that one? Is that what you said earlier?
No, that was on the snowplow.
Okay.
Just the snowplow.
What about this? Is it going to matter?
No, because I think it's in the 2020 budget, so we're okay running three read.
Okay. Ordinance 132, 2019. Mr. Towesley, nope, Ms. Whipke.
Okay. I introduced ordinance 132, 2019 for its first reading. Ask clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance to amend the appropriations for the current expenses of the City of Norton for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency.
Just to clarify, this is for our salt, making sure we have it in here. At this time, I motion to waive the second and third readings.
Second.
Motion second to waive second and third readings on ordinance 132, 2019. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
I motion to adopt ordinance 132, 2019.
Second.
Motion second to adopt ordinance 132, 2019. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Introduction of prior legislation, ordinance 123, 2019. Ms. Whipke?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I offer ordinance 23, 2019 for its second reading. Ask clerk to read it, please.
The annual appropriation ordinance for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Norton for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, and declaring an emergency.
This is for our budget that we're currently working on. Second reading only. Thank you.
Ordinance 121, 2019. Mr. Towesley?
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer ordinance number 121, 2019 for its third reading and ask the clerk to read it, please.
An ordinance authorizing the administrative officer to execute and deliver a real estate purchase and sale agreement and declaring an emergency.
And this is the sale of land on Eastern Road in the new commercial or industrial development. This time I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 121, 2019.
I'll second.
Motion second to adopt ordinance 121, 2019. Any further discussion? This is the sale of 11.57 acres to Pettit Auto Wash, amount $231,400. Roll call, please.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes. Public service announcements, starting with the mayor.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I would just like to announce, as a reminder, Christmas in the Park will be December 7th this year. So if you're planning on decorating a tree, trees need to be in the park and decorated by December 7th. Like I said, if there's any questions, you can give City Hall a call and get your questions answered. Also, keep in mind that we do have the Panther tree that we planted for the Adopt a Spot program this year. Anybody that, an alumni or somebody that went and graduated from the school, if they're interested in putting a decoration out in memory or in honor of that person, you can do so prior to the December 7th evening. So just keep that in mind, and hope to see everyone out there. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Mr. Grant?
Yes. Thank you. I had announced a meeting with the Kiwanis for the Safe Harbor proponents, Mark Saffron and his partner Dave. And we didn't end up having the meeting to announce that it was changed. Sorry about that. So this coming Thursday morning, there will be a meeting with the Norton Kiwanis. The public is invited. Just ask that they please contact me so we know how much food to have. It would cost $6 if you wish to attend. If you want to eat, you don't have to eat. But they're going to be presenting for about a half an hour the ins and outs, what their plans are for Safe Harbor. And it's a property down in the corner of Medina Line Road and Greenwich Road they're restoring. Thank you.
7 a.m.
It's at 7 a.m. this Thursday morning at Norton Community Center.
Anyone else with public service announcements? Review 2020 budget. Anything else you wanted to add? What's your next section that you'll be going over? The rest of it?
Service Department, I believe, next week. And then after that, enterprise is, I've marked that up on your table of contents, just like I did the general fund. If you have questions there, I'll entertain those. If not, after next week, if there's no further questions, I'm pretty much done.
All right. This time, I would like to make a motion to enter into executive session to consider the compensation of public employees as defined in ORC 121.22 G1 and Section 3.121 of the Norton City Charter.
Second.
Motion second to enter into executive session. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Pelot?
Yes.
Mr. Carratt?
Yes.
Mr. Gaynor?
Yes.
Mr. McClone?
Yes.
Mr. Towesley?
Yes.
Ms. Whipke?
Yes.
And I'd like to remind everybody while council's in executive session, the audio and video recording live is being recorded live and uninterrupted. So if you don't want your conversations recorded, might want to step outside council chambers. This time I'd like to invite Mr. Flower, Mr. Zeta, Mr. Markey. That's it. And there'll be no further business.
Mr. Messner?
Mr. Messner as well?
Yeah.
Sure.
And there will be no legislation, no action taken on any legislation when we return. We'll just be adjourning. So, meeting's temporarily adjourned.
Oh, yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, and I actually got a pencil. I found.
Maybe the next one using.
I looked at my agenda, it's just.
Actually, I had a pencil that I forgot.
Oh,
I
you
was
know
trying to
what?
keep two, just in case.
The committee, on the email we got the first year, it said committee.
I just
Oh,
forgot to
that-
look inside.
That could be, because they were changed as we went along there. Hope it's warmer back there than it is
Yeah.
up here.
Well, you got it by the door.
Warmer.
I've been freezing.
I think I'm sweating.
Yeah, but you're working hard, that's.
You gotta get some muscle, big guy.
Blame that on
I lost all
Vernon.
my muscle,
Blame that
too.
on Vernon. You had to work hard.
I lost all my muscle too. Huh? Carrie, this was originally supposed to be a committee meeting, wasn't it? That is correct. So we just made it regular. If we made it special, I just.
He said it was just a regular,
Okay, okay.
so, except you can do special, you would want,
You can only do stuff, I see.
you know.
Gotcha. Okay, so we got 3 left, right? It's a 207. We got a council, committee council.
How much was the Henderson plant?
Which ones we could.
The spare one or the?
Past experience. And then I said, this one,
Yeah.
we should just have pizza and pop. And
Yeah.
The spare, I think I got, that's 10-110.
It's 1093.
1093?
1093 on the spare.
What I heard was 13.2. Yeah, it's gotta be close, but give me a second. I got it right here. Just give me a second.
Must be for.
The problem is the page.
it was for the duck park, yeah,
I was looking for all of them.
all of them, well, no,
Okay, that's what I thought.
no, there weren't for all of them, but like, you know, the Henderson,
Yeah, and there
So
was
this
nothing
one-
else on the plows.
no.
Okay.
And, well, maybe there was, because there was on one of them,
I didn't look at the first one. It kind of caught my attention more on the second one.
are you out of here? You're leaving? Oh, okay.
13, so.
That's why.
13.
There was this, I don't know if that was, it's kind of like a summary of them all. It's hard to say.
That's okay, the council president is just.
Justin, you out of here? 13,200. 13,200.
I appreciate it.
Justin, are you leaving?
And the last thing, how much is the Pettit property?
It's approximately 11.57 acres. That I have that survey to be determined.
Yeah, I was looking at the.
20,000 per acre. Times 11.57. 231,400.
Do you mind if I text you tomorrow afternoon?
Email it. I can, yeah. Because when I get bored of the meetings, I can email you back.
Okay, I'm gonna, what's your email, Robert?
R Fowler at City Hall. But yeah, that's why I say council deserves some credit for this grant money. I know they're gonna say we brought it in, but without them giving me the ability to go do engineering, we don't get the grant money. And $800,000 to redo some stormwater work on Bark Road with some paving. I don't know who doesn't want to do this. Who doesn't want that?
So there will be a meeting next Monday again?
Yes.
Okay.
Regular council. I think the reason we need a regular council tonight is in order to have executive session. I don't know that, but
Okay.
and I asked for the Pettit thing to.
Wow. And you needed to pay for salt.
Well, that's the other thing.
Carrie, can I?
Sure.
I'm not really good at the procedure yet. You know, these all came up again, and they were like adopted and moved to second and third, but these did not. Oh, did they, did I just miss it?
No, because they aren't printed on the agenda,
Okay.
because if they're in committee of the whole, if the committee discusses them and decides not to move them forward, then they don't exist,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So what I do for my cheat sheet is I put in what I think is gonna happen, but there's no template. Till they present it, ask their questions, and then decide if they're gonna move them forward, if it's emergency, if they, they're gonna waive meetings, and until it goes through that discussion, we can't list them under new legislation, because they don't have a number. They don't exist as a bona fide piece of legislation.
So the status of these is?
That means you're tiny notes.
Well, I'm trying to conserve, I don't know.
All right, so the rezoning, which were the first two, A and B, those were waived, and again, procedurally, just because they're going to planning commission, now that they've told you that they're ready to move them forward, they come off council into planning, and planning has 30 days. The reversible snow plow was moved to tonight's agenda.
Okay.
The hot box was moved to tonight's agenda. The water one, the engineering, E and F, and G, the next snow plow, and H, the next snow plow, are all for the 25th.
Okay.
So they didn't even get read to me.
Okay, that's why they didn't get rid.
And then the amendment appropriations, that, again, that came in late. And that was a rush for the salt purchase, so that got read and made. Clear as mud, that's what government's known for, right?
As long as things get done, I guess
I
that's the
think
bottom
so.
line. It's something for. And you have to follow procedure.
Definitely, what would we do without procedures?
Well, there's plenty of people that keep an eye on that too.
I know.
You didn't do that.
And that's important, it is, because, you want people to be informed,
Yeah.
and to be, to be here.
These people pretty much just came to hear what was going on. I mean, they didn't see me.
They didn't say anything, I asked if they wanted to address council, they didn't, so. We should move on. I think we're getting back already, thank you.
Wow, I'd be sorry to keep that. Thank you.
Yes, it's right like
Who's in charge of that one? That must have been Charlotte.
Sit down long enough to adjourn.
Well, I
Good
guessed you'd be
morning, here
back
we
at
are,
8:30,
Nikki.
but I guess I have to change it. I like to guess.
We could hang around. I don't know you get everybody to agree, but.
Well, we've only got 7 more minutes. Let's see how long it takes them to come in, gavel out.
You might be close.
I might be close, huh?
$25 after.
Oh, it's Mr. Gainer's chatting.
I know, but
I'm going to change it to
people have places
8:35.
that have to be.
I probably have to go back to work. Had a key person call off today and others had to cover their work.
At your shop?
I have 9 of the most difficult things that I do all sitting on my counter. That I have to program, run, build.
Yeah, this was supposed to be a committee, they moved it to a regular.
Yeah,
You can't
Yeah.
do it while you're busy and phones ringing.
I knew that they had moved it.
Yeah. 3 left.
Put my coat on for it.
Meeting adjourned. We're not even taking a second.
Adjourned.
Yeah, just give me a call, I'll come pick